Hey guys, Zen here, and there's a new formula brewing for Rainbow Six Siege because a lot is changing. First is this, a big shift in the Year 8 roadmap, and yet another update that moves around a few key changes. Then this, the designer's notes for the huge new season in Rainbow Six Siege, and man, some of this stuff will literally change everything about some of the most popular operators. But then of course, there's this.
I know what you're wondering. What's in the canister?
Now, we still don't have that elusive answer, but Fenrir, the brand new defender in Rainbow Six Siege, has his own blend of toxic gas that strikes fear into his enemies. Guys, this video is packed with the most important changes happening here, and so if you're returning to Rainbow Six Siege or just ready for a massive new season, this video is for you. So let's hop into Operation Dread Factor. Guys, don't you just dread cooking? You could spend that valuable time clicking more heads in a new season of Siege. Well, thankfully, there's Factor. They deliver fresh, never frozen meals handcrafted by gourmet chefs directly to your doorstep, and it couldn't be easier to enjoy. First off, there's a huge selection with over 34 meals to suit your lifestyle. You can choose from keto-friendly, vegetarian, and vegan options, and to make it easy to maintain your goals, they even offer a protein plus option. It's also super simple to prepare. You can choose to throw your Factor meal in the oven, which is the route I usually take, or if you want it done for in between matches, just pop it in the microwave and it'll be ready in just 2.5 minutes. Now, if you're looking for a little something extra, Factor also offers up some add-ons like these fresh smoothies, but there's plenty more to choose from. And I'll just say, this stuff just tastes great. Like, I've really enjoyed all of it. And it's also a great way to cut back on the takeout. And so guys, head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code ZEN50 to get 50% off your first Factor box. It's the perfect way to save some money and eat something new. So thanks to Factor for sponsoring today's video, and now let's get back to it. Fenrir, a mad scientist, has joined Team Rainbow with the goal of corrupting the minds of the opponent and sending them to an early grave. But actually, no, not that at all. Fenrir is a science genius and concocted a gas that causes the target to hallucinate, lowering their field of vision and forcing them into a state of delirium. But in Siege terms, his gadget releases a smoke that limits attacker visibility, giving Fenrir the advantage. But it's really the way this thing works that makes it interesting. So Fenrir gets 5 of these gadgets, and unlike Legion or Wamai, he gets all of them at the beginning of the round, so no waiting around for gadgets to spawn in. Now, at any given time, he can activate only 3 of these gadgets, and it requires you to look in their direction and flip them on with your phone. When they're just sitting there, deactivated, they're essentially indestructible. Only explosions will destroy them. However, when they are activated, they open up like a maestro cam and can be taken out with just a single bullet. And so there's always 2 extremely important jobs for every single Fenrir player to understand. For one, you'll have to be very in tune with the map you're playing on and know the most popular spots attackers will come from. If you want to get any effect at all from these mines, they have to be both in the right place and activated at the right time, and so you'll be constantly juggling this balancing act to try to make the most of the new fear mechanic. And something else I think you have to be super aware of is your level of intel gathering. Fenrir isn't soulless, and he isn't Year 3 Lion and can see through walls. The only way you're going to know exactly where an attacker is coming from is by watching them on a camera or communicating with teammates. This is important because today's meta is ultra fast and has slowly started getting away from intel and recon, and Fenrir is at his best when he knows as much about a target as he can gain. Ops like Soulless, Valkyrie, and Legion are key partners here because they'll help Fenrir close in on an enemy and activate the mine for an easy takeaway. And that's the part that I also think hurts this new operator. You will always be activating and deactivating mines with this op, and it can be extremely distracting and cause you to take your focus off the flow of the match because you want your gadget to actually do something during the round. I actually think Fenrir is a lot like Frost, where in some cases you'll place frost mats in all the wrong spots and it'll essentially do nothing for the round. But then you'll catch 2 or 3 attackers coming from the same window and have a massive impact. The big perk with Fenrir though is the mines being bulletproof and forcing attacker utility to deal with them. But for a loadout, Fenrir is lethal. MP7, SASG, Bailiff, barbed wire, and a bulletproof cam. He's got the firepower and the ability to make rotates along with secondary gadgets that synergize well with the mines. Altogether, I see Fenrir as a very high skill operator that'll be best in the hands of a seasoned Siege player who has a finger on the pulse of the meta. and it's been a while since we got an operator like this. For newer players, I think it'll be a lot of fun interacting with the gadget and getting intel with them, but location is everything here, and knowing when to activate and what callouts to listen for will be the separating factor here. As for the fear mechanic itself, it is essentially just a fog that limits view, but because defenders can see through it, and of course they're not affected by it, it's pretty potent. But I like Fenrir. I think he has a lot to do, particularly during the prep phase, and really specializes in anchoring. And so if you're the foundation of your stack, I think you'll find some value here, or just be really good with the MP7. Now, the other smoke-based defender, Smoke, is being struck by tragedy. The deployable shield is gone. The secondary gadget that this operator has had since the very beginning is no more, and they've swapped it out for proximity mines. This ended up being pretty controversial, and it's because, kind of like Bandit or Thermite, Smoke has been played the same way for a very long time, and the deployable shield was a cornerstone of his loadout. Smoke's most important role is to stay alive until the very end of the round and use his smoke canister to prevent a plant or force the attackers into a cloud of gas when they only have seconds left. And the deployable shield helped him to anchor on site and lock down the fort. Now, I think proximity mines were actually a decent compromise though, because they tell him exactly where to throw a canister in the event one goes off. But Smoke is obviously an operator the devs want to continue to tweak, because not too long ago they went to the fullest extreme and tried to make it so that Smoke was no longer immune to his own smoke canisters. This was shut down quickly by the community and they reverted the decision, but I think with this update it proves that Smoke is an operator they're not afraid to pick apart. And even though this isn't some monumental change like what they tried to do, it does alter a playstyle that's been true since literally the beginning. Grim is up next, and what they did I think has some positive effect, but they hint at an even bigger update coming later in the year that could change everything for the operator. Grim is area denial, and his beehives track any defender that sits in their radius. The problem has been the time it takes to deploy the bees, because most times the defender is already gone by the time the bees are released. So they buffed him, and the bees now deploy much faster. It's about the same amount of time Capital's firebolt takes to spread after landing. It's quick. However, now a defender can shoot the hive out with just one bullet, and if that happens, no ability at all. Now, I'll say on consoles where you don't have the precision of a mouse, this will be more rare than actually effective, and so the whole buff benefits there. But on PC especially, people have lightning quick reflexes and can shoot this thing out, and so it really sets Grim up for a rough day. There are still the Jaeger and Wamai counters, but now he can be countered by every single other defender, and I don't know, it seems like there's a lot of resistance to Grim being super effective. Now, it should be mentioned that they've doubled the duration of the bees, so they will last much longer, and on top of getting sighted scopes this past season, in Dread Factor, Grim is getting the Bailiff. I really believe the secret sauce to this attacker being great is going vertical, and the Bailiff I think opens up an all new playstyle that'll be much better suited to him. Add on to that hard breach charges, and yeah, Grim got buffed. But again, there is that mysterious update coming later, as soon as Year 8 Season 3, and this is where Grim will see the most change. One major improvement that's been circling for this operator is to mount his hive launcher on his main assault rifle, kind of like Buck and the Skeleton Key. One of the main reasons Buck is so effective is because of the sheer speed of swapping between rifle and gadget, and how easy it is to get back to your weapon if you get caught off guard with the shotgun. Grim really struggles with the swap and the time it takes to get the launcher out or go from launcher back to the assault rifle. And so mounting it on the weapon makes perfect sense, and I think added to the upgrades he's gotten here, he would feel like a totally new operator. Until then though, this is a solid next step, even if there are technically more counters than ever before. Now, Year 8 Season 3 is already getting changed even before the full release of Season 2 in Operation Dread Factor. Earlier in the year, we got the roadmap, and in it was one of the most controversial updates in Siege's history with the rework to Frost. At the time of the reveal, the panel was even booed by the audience because it just didn't sit well with what they had planned. And so this season was supposed to have the Frost rework, but instead it's been pushed into Year 8 Season 3 to launch alongside the new operator from South Korea. If you missed it, they want Frost to feel more like the huntress she is, and also give the attackers more of a fighting chance if they get tripped up by her welcome mat. And so if an attacker is caught, they will no longer need the help of a teammate to be freed from the trap. They can let themselves out, but they won't be able to sprint for the rest of the round, and they'll leave a blood trail for Frost to go and track them down and secure that kill. It sounds good on paper and definitely adds to the huntress fantasy, but it just seems unnecessary. Frost feels great right now, and when there are lots of other operators who could possibly use a rework, it's tough to side with this priority. But this shift in the roadmap made it possible to buff Grim and gave us the observation blocker, and it should be said that the Frost rework will be playable in the lab server, so if you've been on the fence about the change, you'll get the chance to go hands-on in Dread Factor. But speaking of the observation blocker, attacker, it's here, and it's one of the most useful tools that now a handful of defenders have access to. Rapid Fire, Ella, Rook, Pulse, Alibi, Kaid, Maestro, Kavera, Warden, and Jaeger will all get this thing as one of their secondary gadgets, and for most, it'll be a third option, so they'll still have the other secondaries they've always had. This gadget blocks intel from drones and makes it so that they simply can't see what's going on the other side of it. I actually think droning has become somewhat of a lost art in Siege. Many people can predict where the objective will be, and so they'll just cruise their drone up to the site and get it destroyed before the action phase even begins. Hopefully, this gadget slows down that metagame and causes drones to be more cautious because you really don't know what or who is on the other side. For defenders, it's a great way to cloak the objective setup, which will hopefully catch more attackers by surprise. Then there's the permanent arcade playlist, and they even dropped an all-new game mode to celebrate the release in Operation Dread Factor. So at launch, there are 5 game modes to cycle through: Golden Gun, Headshots Only, Snipers Only, Team Deathmatch, which is now playable in the arcade playlist, and the all-new Free-for-All. In Free-for-All, it's the classic every man for themselves game type. No teams, just survive and get kills all by yourself. Arcade is also now a part of custom games, and so you can choose any of these modes and set it up however you'd like. This has been a long time coming, but now that it's here, Siege has more available game modes than ever before, and it'll help keep things fresh and filled with variety. And finally, the consulate rework. So for me, this is by far one of the most in-depth reworks ever in Siege. The map is so different on pretty much every floor, and every single site plays totally differently here. A major problem of the old map was actually getting inside as an attacker, and thankfully there's many more options to do that in the rework. The only drawback for me, and I don't know how you guys feel about it, but there is still the split objectives that are a floor apart: the basement and the first floor objective, which I have just never been a fan of. Now, I'll admit, it is a site that breaks up the norm and requires some interesting setups, but because not many other ranked maps do this, it's just tough to fully come to terms with. Overall though, I really like this rework. I much prefer it to the original, which I think was desperate for an upgrade, and they did it justice here. And so guys, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more videos coming very soon. I'll catch you in the next one. Hey, I'm out.